Hi. So normally my husband and I do a little sunset cruise together with the girls. You see the girls? It's Lily and Lucy. But this evening it's just you and I. So turn the sunset. So where we left off this morning was I was going on my very first vacation, and lots of interesting things happened on this vacation that forever changed me. Pivotal stuff. So the goal of the vacation was 12 days, and I was going to go into Boston and see some friends, and I was going to see my grandmother and see the Singer family too, and some friends. And then I was going to drive up to Portland, Maine, and go hot air ballooning for a sunrise hot air balloon ride. And then I was going to go from there and drive to Caratunk, Maine, and go white river rafting and windsurfing, and then back to Boston and fly home. So that was the plan. So when I go to Boston, and I met with the Singers, and I met with my grandmother, and then I was in a situation with friends that I ended up in an environment with a childhood offender, and I allowed myself to stay while people were leaving, and I was alone with my childhood offender, and he said, "Hey, this is like old times," and he exposed himself and said, "Well, let's go," and I said, "Yeah, no, that's not going to happen," and left. And when I left, remember, I have been months in therapy once a week, and in a group and individual therapy, and I have maintained that I am not a victim, that I was simply a whore, and a whore that is forgiven. So let's get off the "you are a victim" bandwagon and stop these panic attacks. That's the problem. My past isn't the problem, it's these darn panic attacks. So now I'm in the situation, and I leave the situation, and I had the thought, right? So sometimes when you're under attack, your walls come up and you can't see anything because your walls are up. But when the attack stops, or there's nobody attacking you, and your walls are down, you can see differently. And I had the thought, gee, if I really was a whore, then, there's no church ladies here, my husband isn't here, nobody would know. I could totally, it's not like my father-in-law asking me to have sex, nobody would know. I could totally get away with this. And if I was a whore, wouldn't I do that? Wouldn't I do that? What if, and not the bad catastrophizing what if I'm not a whore? What if, this is the big one, I was never a whore? And then my mind busted open, and I was just like, wow, are my children whores? Right? If somebody abused my daughter, God forbid, would she be a whore when she doesn't even have pubic hair? I didn't have pubic hair. I was in first grade. That's just a few years older than my daughter is. Was I a whore then? No. No, I wasn't a whore in first grade, or second grade, or third grade, or fourth grade, or fifth grade, or sixth grade. Wow, I wasn't a whore. Wow. So I get to the hotel. I call my therapist. Guess what? I was alone with the predator and I'm not a whore. And she scolded me. What were you thinking? How could you allow yourself to be alone? Blah, 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 blah. And that, my friends, was the last time I spoke to her. I had many therapists, and I'm glad she did that, because if she hadn't done that, I would have continued to only see her, and I wouldn't have had the amazing different kinds of therapeutic experiences that just never would have gotten anything close to that with her. So it was good that she scolded me, because it freed me, right? It freed me. So okay, now I'm okay. I got a lot of therapy to do, right? But I'm going to enjoy the experience of hot air ballooning. So I go to sleep in the hotel, and I get up in the morning, and I meet the balloon people, and it was the owner and his wife and another couple and me. And we go up in this balloon, and it's magical, and just magical experience. And we're talking like grown-ups. You know, I was just, I was 25, and they treated me like I was one of them, and we had great conversations. I thought that it was great conversations. I thought we were like all getting along. And like, this is how people talk. I don't even remember what we spoke about, but it felt like it was equal, like I was one of the gang, It was great. And they talked about sometimes if it's too foggy, they go out for breakfast at this place, and it was just cool. It was really cool. Wonderful. I had a great time and went to bed, and the next morning the phone rings, and I answer it, and it is the owner of the balloon place. And I'm half asleep, and he's something, fog, can't go up in the balloon, breakfast, and I'm like, they're inviting me to breakfast with them. I am one of the gang, And I get dressed, and he says, okay, go out the door, take a ride, and it's called the Egg and I, and I'm feeling so happy, and I trucked out to the restaurant, and I'm gonna have breakfast with the gang, and the only person that's there is the owner, the guy. Call him Bob, just Bob. And I'm thinking, well, the rest of them must be on their way. Maybe they're putting away, I don't know, they're on their way. So I sit down with Bob, and I'm confused, and he's ordering breakfast, and we start talking, and he says, yeah, my wife said that you were trouble. So I obviously was flirtatious. I don't know that, but I'm assuming that I must have been flirtatious. I did something that made this woman feel like I was trouble. And there wasn't anybody coming. It was just him. And I'm heartbroken. I'm not one of the gang. I'm trouble. Seer. I'm bad news. and I'm just in that, like, I'm listening to him, but not really listening to him. I'm just trouble. And it's raining, and he said, I'll give you a ride back to the hotel. It's close, but, I'm not paying attention if you take a left or a right, or, I'm trouble. And he turns away from the hotel, not towards the hotel. And the windshield wipers are going, and we drove further than where my hotel was, and we're in a cemetery. I see tombstones, and now I'm confused, more confused. Now I'm in a situation, and what am I going to do? Try to get out of it, and if I can't get out of it, how am I going to survive it? I'm about to be raped. So, sure enough, he lunges on top of me, and to this day, I can't tell you that I have ever felt a physical body as hard as his. All of the pulling of a hot air balloon, like he was steel, and I could not budge him off of me. And I have to think fast, and these God job, right? These God moments. I said to him, and I didn't even think this through. This is just what organically came out of my mouth. But I said, I want you to, kind of like I did with Elfie Way, right? I'm like, I want you to. But the checkout at the hotel is in a half an hour from now, or whatever. And they'll charge me for another day if I don't get my stuff out. So how about we go back to the hotel, I put my stuff in my car, and then we can spend more time together and have a better experience, because you are so hot and I want you so bad because you're such a fucking turn on. So he's like, that's fine, but how about a quickie right now? I'm like, no, save it. By the way, it would never be believable if you did it with sarcasm, just saying. And so he's like, okay. And he turns that puppy around and takes me to the hotel. And when he gets close to the hotel entrance, where the lobby is, I jump out of the truck before it's in park. And I run to the front desk and ask for security. And I tell security what's happened, and they go with me to my, and the truck takes off, and they go with me to my room, ask me what are those charges. I just want to get out of here, so they help me get my stuff together, bring my suitcases to my car, and then I go to Carrot Top. So I'm staying at this place called the Sterling Inn. It was magical, right? The forks in Maine are magical, and I feel hopeful about my marriage, because my husband is saying, I miss you and I love you, and I've been, a crappy husband, and we're gonna make this work, and I've had some aha moments, and got out of being raped, and here I am in this magical place called the Sterling Inn, and I meet this painter, and he is a trip. He and another guy are the painters for the summer, and he's really nice to me, and he's not coming on kicked it. Like, I did such a great job, and I got to be around men who weren't inappropriate. That was cool. And then I went White River rafting, and I'm the only person. I'm the only person who's traveling alone. And I didn't mind that at all. And the leader guy of the White River rafting, his name is Mad Dog, and it was such a great experience. We went through this rapid called Magic, because now you see you and now you don't. You go into this rapid, and it was wonderful. And then after that, that was an amazing experience. And after that, I went to Boston and saw my grandmother again, hopped on a plane, and went home. And when I got home, my husband was behaving oddly. He was behaving oddly, and I didn't know, what was going on with him. But his birthday was coming up, and we weren't fighting or anything. It was just something odd. And I got a dividend check from my inheritance. So I got 1/3 of my 1/3, and that's what bought the house and the land and the car and the bed. And I got this dividend check for a few $100s, and I thought, well, maybe he needs a break. I got to have a break. And my husband all along, I had attended a yearly Christian church women's retreat, which was all about how to be a wife and mother. It is like a mini course on how to be a Christian, godly wife and mother. It wasn't about fun. It was about teaching you these skills. And my husband had taken many adventures, lots of fishing things and stuff that guys do. He did many different things, but I had never done anything. So that was a really cool experience. But he's behaving weird. I get this dividend check, and I thought maybe it's just time for him to do something fun. So I said, hey, I have this money coming. Why don't you plan on taking some time off from work, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and go fishing. Buy a new rod. Have fun. Go do something fun. And he said, you're going to need that money. And I said, I don't need the money. Go have fun. And he said, I don't love you. I'm not in love with you. I don't want to ever make love to you again. I can leave tonight, or I can leave in the morning, but I'm leaving you and I want a divorce. I fell to my knees crying, and I begged him not to leave. I said, whatever was wrong in our marriage, God could fix us. And I said, leave in the morning, don't leave tonight. And I sat next to the bed all night, and I watched him sleep. And when he woke up, he grabbed a few things, and he left me and our 2 children. We were divorced that April, and he was married in July. I don't remember much of that first year. Um, I did not have family. I didn't have anybody I could live with. I didn't know how to pay bills. I had never had like a legitimate job. Um, there was nobody on my side. The church that had been my savior, had been my safe place, who I had confessed everything to. I went to church every Sunday and Wednesday night, but my husband did not go to church with me. But his family was well known, in the church, that one side of the family, and I was instantaneously a leper. My very best friend, Kathy, dropped me like a hot potato. I was not welcome to her home. When I went to her home and told her what had happened, and she had had a studio apartment, and can I move in? What do I do? How am I going to pay the mortgage? And she said that her older son felt sexual energy from me, and that I was no longer welcome at the house. And then all of these men came out of the woodwork. I'm like, the last thing I need is that, and I've got to figure out, where to live, and it was. It was awful. My mom had no words of wisdom for me. She had her own shit show going on, and I had these two little kids. And no help, no job skills, nothing. I got a job at a gym, which was fantastic, but I made $4.25 an hour. I got an apartment because my grandmother paid the first and last in security for the apartment. Because I was driving 45 minutes back and forth trying to pay the babysitter, and I was falling asleep. And I'm like, I have to move. I'm going to work in town. I have to live in town. So Dawn moved in the house, and I got an apartment with the kids, and I worked 12 hours a day. The daycare there was a church close by, and it was $400 a week. I'm like, that's like, I don't make that much money, and that's per kid. So I could not afford, and nobody told me about any sort of services. Like I didn't know about services. I did not know about a divorce attorney. I did not know about anything. I did not know. I truly did not know. Man, if that would have happened now, oh my gosh. So screwed over. So screwed over. My inheritance bought the first house, my inheritance bought the second house, my inheritance bought the land. I just did not know. But I had been brainwashed in the Christian church, and what I believed was that Don had the family. He had this huge family. He had a wife with a daughter, and it was just me. Just pathetic, burden, trouble, me. And like Solomon, if I was going to do the right thing for my children, I would give up custody residential custody and let the kids live with their dad because he had a family. So in the church, you are taught on women's retreat. I mean, you are just taught that sun's going down. You are taught that family is everything. The most important thing you can do for a child is give them a home and family. My children were starting to wet the bed at night. My grandmother, she was 80-something years old, came to my apartment and is trying to help me with the kids. My Uncle Bruce said, get out of there and have her go back to Boston, and told me, my mother is not your nanny. Figure it out yourself kind of thing. And the single hardest thing I've ever done in my life is hand over the kids to my ex-husband. But I believed, totally believed, that what I had wanted for my children was better than what I had, and I wanted them to be okay and to be safe, and they weren't okay and safe with me, but they would be safe with Don and his new wife and the daughter, and so I agreed to that, and that meant, and I didn't have a lawyer when we got divorced, and the judge was like, I've never seen an ex-wife so agreeable, and and I'm not the one that was leaving him. So I had to pay child support. So they took what he would have had to pay in alimony and deducted the child support, and the remainder of what was left was what I had to pay each month. How do you like that? And I gave him the property and the house and everything so that the kids would have a home. And I gave it to him with a handshake that this land and house was always supposed to be an investment property for the kids' future. So this would pay for